Hi, everyone. My name is Patrick Bozick, and thank you for joining us for the easyDITA 19.0 release webinar. We're very excited to have you all here today. We've got a number of really great new features that we're going to go through. John Baker is going to kick off in just a minute and walk us through the new version of easyDITA. And then at the end of the webinar, I'm going to come back and I'm going to answer any questions you may have. So if you stick around for the end, I'll be back with you, and I will be fielding any questions anybody may have, or trying to respond to any comments anybody might have had throughout the course of the webinar. Once again, very excited to have you guys here. This is a big release for us. We think there's a lot of things in it that are going to benefit our current and future customers. We think that it's going to be really excited to show you all the new things we have in store here today. So I am going to go ahead and mute myself, and I think John's getting himself ready, and he'll be taking it away in maybe just a minute here.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on easyDITA 19.0. Today, we're really excited to have all of you here to join us, and we're excited to introduce this new wave of updates and tools and features that are all going to be shown within the easyDITA system. Now, for those of you who were here last time when we presented 18.0, I believe that was back in November, you know that we focused really heavily on the editor experience, on trying to create the tools and the system that is perfect for writers. We showed how easyDITA is the first and the only XML editor that allows real-time collaboration for multiple authors to be able to get into the system and work on the same document at the same time in real time. And we've had just a tremendous amount of feedback from our customers and the users who have been able to take advantage of that system and get their entire team on board editing the same document at the same time. We've heard so many amazing stories about some of our customers who have cut their review cycles in half, because instead of having document locking, they can have 30, 40, 50 reviewers all working in the same system without having to worry about taking turns. We like to say that now teams can work together instead of taking turns, and we're really excited about that. But that's just the first step in the document lifecycle process. This time around, we're really excited because these updates are about focusing on publishing, answering the question of how can we make publishing not just faster and not just easier, but truly gratifying in the way that it doesn't always seem to feel. I'm reminded of a recent survey from DC Labs that was posted. They found that as many as 50% of users are still publishing almost exclusively to PDF. And there's a lot of headaches that come associated with that. And for our DITA users, a significant amount of their publishing output is through PDFs. And so through this presentation, we're going to show ways that we've enhanced the whole process from start to finish. We're really focused on that publishing and specifically on that PDF publishing. Now, most of these updates, they've come directly from comments and the wish lists of our customers. So if you're one of our customers today, I just wanted to say hello. We're glad you could join us, and thank you for all of your terrific suggestions. For those of you who are watching and maybe you're just trying to learn a little bit more about easyDITA or make a more informed decision about the tools available in the marketplace, we really hope this webinar will answer some of your questions. But if not, please reach out to us. Please contact us and let us know how we can better answer your questions, how we can better serve you in that way. Now, before we dive into this webinar, there's just a few housekeeping items that I want to address. Now, first, during the course of this webinar, feel free to submit any questions that you might have. We won't be able to answer them during the main portion, but at the end of the webinar, we'll have a designated time for questions and answers. I think the last one, we ended up with over 30 questions from all of you, and it was just a really terrific time of question and response. And hopefully we can get some good questions in this time as well. And don't forget that we have a special announcement that we're saving for the end of the webinar, so stay tuned for that. And also one more item is that we're going to be sending out a recording of this webinar shortly following its completion. So sometimes it can take a little bit of time to render and get posted online, so please be patient for that. But we'll try to get that sent out to all of you as soon as possible, immediately following. So this is our agenda for today. First off, we're going to talk about publishing. Like we've already alluded to, we have a number of updates that are specifically relevant to those looking to improve their publishing workflow. We have a number of UI enhancements, as well as a PDF creation tool that really makes styling easier than ever. There's also an expansion of the PDF template system that we're really looking forward to showing off. And next, we're going to take a look at some of the editor enhancements. These are just more of those enhancements that are aimed at making the work for the writer easier, to streamline their process, and to give them the tools necessary to produce documents faster than before. Next, we're going to take a look at some user permission updates. Some of these are stylistic changes, some of them are functional changes, but the intent of all of these is to make it easier for managers and administrators to better organize their team and set up workflows that really work for their organization. Next, we're going to take a look at Word to DITA conversion. We have a new tool that really makes this process a whole lot simpler. It makes it easy for people migrating from Word to a DITA system. It gives them the power to start that process on their own. At that point, Patrick Bosek, he's going to jump on to the webinar and he's going to take a little bit of time and talk about the new subscription tiers that we have coming now at easyDITA, a new pricing model. And it's something that we're really excited. We think it reflects a big change in the way that easyDITA is increasingly trying to adapt to the market and provide the tools that are best suited to writers and tech pubs out there. And then finally, we're going to take a look at this new product announcement that we're really excited about. And at the end of all that, we'll have a time of questions and answers. So like I mentioned earlier, if you have any questions, please submit them now, or please submit them as the webinar is going forward, and we'll be happy to answer those at the conclusion of all of these agenda items. And without further ado, let's jump right in. Now, like I said, one of the top priorities for us here at Jorsik, it's been about improving the start to finish process of getting documents from the minds of the writers into the hands of the users. Now in 18.0, like I talked about, we improved the editor and we really focused on that. But with 19.0, we wanted to bring that focus to publishing. So we developed a number of UI improvements. Now, the old UI, it wasn't really intuitive. It took way too many clicks, and the information, it just wasn't centralized like the users wanted. It was a little bit more difficult to get some things accomplished than we really wanted. So we spent a lot of time thinking about it critically, getting feedback from our customers, and finding out how could we make this process of getting documents to the users just better. How can we make it more gratifying? How can we make it a more satisfying process? And so one thing about that was really changing the way things were arranged in the system. So you're going to see here we're starting off in the authoring system, and I'm just going to navigate to, let's see, we'll go to our documentation, user guide. Here, let's jump into the publishing one. So we're going to look in this publishing DITA map. And you see here, as everything loads up, and for those of you who are less familiar with the system, like I talked about, this is the only XML editor that is fully collaborative, and that means you can have multiple users editing in the same system at the same time without any file locking or document slowdown, dynamic loading on demand. But what I really want to bring your attention to today is up here, this new tab. It's called the Output tab. And this is really that answer to that question of where can I find all the relevant information regarding the publishing of this document. So within the Output tab, we really tried to make it as straightforward as possible. So we'll see right here, if hypothetically, if this is a document that's currently undergoing a publishing, we'll do some publishing in a little bit, but if you are publishing with a document, right up here it would tell you that there's a job in process or in progress. And then right below it, you have the finished jobs. Now, if you have a long list, it could be, in this case, it's just been the one that was done yesterday, or perhaps you have a long list. If that's the case, then it's easy to find the publishing job or the scenario that you're looking for by using the search bar, or you can use these filters to find the right one based on which scenario was used for the publishing, the status of it, the locale, all of that relevant information. You'll also see for publishing jobs that have a description included there as well. We also have the all the locales are listed here, like we talked about, and you can also download it from here. But now if you click on this, it brings up just a little bit more information, and there's some really cool stuff here. So probably one of the coolest changes that we made to this is right over here, the key assets. And most of the stuff is redundant of the things shown earlier. You'll see down here, there are the messages, and these are messages or feedback you receive from your publishing engine. So if for whatever reason it failed to go through, you'll be able to find out why by looking right here. Now with the key assets, the way things have been in the past is that when you complete a publishing job, if you want to look at it, you have to download a zip folder, you have to wait for that to download, you have to open up the zip folder and extract the document that you want to look at, and you have to open it on your computer. And if it doesn't work, then you have to delete all of that and go back in and try it again. But with this, you can actually preview without having to download the document. And so just like that, see, it pops right up. And for this preview, it goes up to 100 pages. And so this gives users the opportunity to be able to check out the status of their publishing to see if it was successful and if everything was rendered properly without having to go through a lot of trouble without having to go through all the trouble of downloading and then extracting and looking at the items individually. Now, I know what you're thinking at this point. You're thinking, that's great if you have a PDF style created that's worth publishing to, or you're ready to go with that. But what if you're trying to find a better way to edit and update your existing PDFs? Well, at this point, I think it's important to talk about the PDF generator. It's something we talked about a little bit earlier, just in brief. But for a lot of organizations, PDF styling is such a headache when it comes to getting their published documents into the hands of their users. And we spend a lot of time and energy really trying to focus on that, on addressing that. So this is brand new in the system in 19.0. I'm going to go back to the dashboard, and down here, you'll see right here in the bottom left under the administration pane on the left side, this PDF generator. I'm going to select that, and you'll see all here you have the PDF generator scenarios right here. And so we've been testing a lot of different layouts and things of that nature over here at Jorsic. And so I'm just going to show you real quick. I'm going to show you how you can go in, how you can try to create a PDF document for yourself with just a little bit of help and with just a little bit of know-how. So we're going to start by going over here and selecting New Scenario. Now from here, you can name your scenario. We're going to call this 19.0 demo test. And now there will be a few default templates that will come within the PDF generator. These will be filled out a little bit more over time, but right now we're going to start with just our basic Jorsic template, just as a base template that we're going to work off of. And then next you need to pick a place where you want to save that. So I'm just going to navigate over here into one of these subfolders and use that as a location to save this scenario. And now you'll see that we have over here on the left side, the scenario configuration. And this is where you can make changes to the configuration, such as the name, the cover page, and the CSS, which we'll get into in just a moment, as well as the location. So what the system does is it allows you to edit the styling through CSS that appears over on the right side. Now, right now, this space is blank, actually. And that's because we still have to select a map on which we're going to be previewing this styling. So we'll do that right now. Let's go over here to the, let's go to Thunderbird. We'll do the Thunderbird user guide. Thunderbird, I'm sorry, is sort of a fictitious software company that we use to illustrate a lot of documentation best practices and things of that nature. So we're going to select that. And while it's loading, we'll talk about like one of the big benefits, and it's already loaded. So one thing about this system is that it is really fast. The speed is really unparalleled, and it can't be done at this speed outside of easyDITA's internal rendering. So with typical systems, when you are trying to style PDFs, especially through the DITA OT plugins, it involves a knowledge of XSLT and XSLFO development. And those are very complex, very technical, and not too many people really know how to work with those languages. The beauty of this system is that it's all in CSS, which even someone like myself, I can at least figure out my way around a CSS. And so I'm going to show you in a little bit just some of the edits that you can make in it very, very easily. But you'll see up here this normalized DITA, HTML, and the PDF. You can think of these as sort of the steps where it gets from the initial DITA to normalized to HTML to PDF. So what normalized DITA is, essentially it's just taking the DITA content and it's straightening out some things. So like references and links, instead of referencing topics, it'll just pull those entire topics in so that it's all in line in the system. And then that gets converted into HTML. And then that's what we see over here with the PDF output. And you can make those changes through the CSS. So real quick, just to show what kind of changes are being made in this CSS, I'm going to copy this and then delete it, and then generate this PDF again. And we'll see here, so now this is stripped down. There's no styling applied to this. The only things, you still have images in here, but other than that, it's just very basic. I think it's Times New Roman text with, it's just basic link, italicizing, size differences. But so now if we paste this right back in here, then generate the PDF again, give that a moment to load up, and then we have the styling applied. So this is, like I mentioned, the basic Jorsic branding styling. And the whole point of this is just to give people a stepping stone, something from which to develop their own styling. So this kind of just sets a basic framework for the kind of changes that you can make as different users. So you see here things like the font family established here, where you can actually change which font you would want to go there. Or things like the margin spacing, cover page, container, different elements of the table of contents. So let's actually start here with just like a really simple edit. So you'll notice here we have the periods that are used as the spacing in the table of contents. If you want to change that, you can do so right here. So we're just going to replace that with a hyphen. Now if you hit generate PDF, scroll back down. So now you see that the change has been applied, and now it's hyphenated. So that's just one example. Let's try something just a little bit more complex. Now, we'll notice down here that, for instance, some of these images are sized properly. They span the whole width. But right here, this one isn't. You'll actually notice it's actually going off to the side. So what happened was, within the easyDITA system, we actually have it in our schematron that it'll get flagged if you do not set a width attribute for your different images. Sometimes people are busy, they insert an image, they might fail to actually set that width. And so what you can do is to try to catch things like that. You can put it into you can have it in your schematron, but as a safety mechanism, you can also put something in your CSS to try to catch things like this so that oversized images don't go out. And so you might be wondering, how would you do that? Well, so one way is there's a lot of great resources out there just for basic CSS knowledge. This is the kind of resources that I use when I'm just messing with a website or just have to do something very basic and I don't want to take up a developer's time. So you can see, for instance, here, it'll just give you very basic ways to set attributes for your item. So I'm just going to grab this, copy it, and jump back over here. And so now let's just scroll down to the bottom. And let's try this. So we'll do this. And now the image obviously is not going to come out right. Since we set specific parameters, it's all going to be skewed. This just to illustrate how we're using this as kind of stepping stones. So you see like these images, this didn't fix our problem. Now everything looks a little wonky and that's not correct. So what we can do is instead if we want to make sure that the image is spanning the whole width, we can set the width to 100% and set the height to auto. So you'll see with the system that actually makes suggestions based on what a likely command would be in this situation. And so now let's try this. So we're going to try this PDF again with the width set to span 100% and the height to automatically adjust. So now you see this one, it looks good like it did before. And now so does this image. So instead of being pushed off to the side, it's now centered, the width is 100%, and it fits into the space. Now let's say you can see here there's some padding issues along, or not padding issues, but it's difficult to distinguish exactly where the image ends and where the rest of the document begins. So to fix that, we can go back over here onto, again, this is w3schools.com, a resource that I use a lot. Let's jump over here to style images. And so here, these are just some very basic commands that you can use. And so let's see, what would be an appropriate one? So why don't we try this? We'll actually use an image border. So we're just going to copy this. Let's add these lines. And now, so one thing that's also very cool with this system is that if you hover over a spot where there's coloration, it'll actually have this color selector, this gradient color selector pop out. And so if you know the hex code or the RGB, you can manually type that in. But if you don't, you can use this. So we'll use obnoxious green. No, it's a little bit too much. There we go. We'll use this blue, kind of similar to the Jorsic branding. So let's have border a little bolder, and we'll get rid of the width in this setting since we already have a width set for the image. And let's try this. All right, so there we go. Now we were able to, with relative ease, set a border around the various images. And maybe this isn't exactly what you would do with your PDF styling, but the beauty of this system is that no matter what you're trying to achieve, this gives you the tools to be able to do that a lot more quickly and efficiently. So the last thing I want to show off, and it's a brief one, but it's an important one, and that's one of the changes that we made to the actual publishing system itself. So to show that off, I'm just going to jump over here to this user guide, and if you select Publish, you'll notice here on the left-hand side, it has all of these different publishing scenarios from which you can select. And if you do pick one, it gives you different options for what to include. You can enter a description. You can make, long day. You can make different changes. You can debug your publishing. And for your different output types, your different scenarios, different things will be required of it. And then you simply select Publish, and it will take you to that Output tab where we started off the discussion on publishing, where you'll be able to open up the key assets and check for the success of your published document and make sure that everything is in line. So now that we've had a chance to look at all of this, to look at all of the publishing options, now we're going to move on and talk about editor enhancements. So now we're going to just take a few moments. We'll try to be pretty quick in this section, but there are just a few really big changes to the editor that I really want to call out. So you see we're back in our authoring tab. Let's open up this user guide. And now once we're in here, so the first one that I want to talk about, actually, so let me jump over, go demo, let's jump Thunderbird. All right, so let's jump into this user guide. All right, so now if we're going to jump down, introduction, no, it's getting started. And down here, so you'll see right here, we're going to talk about how it's so much easier now to edit your reused content. So the way things were in the past is that when you would reuse, you would conref an element and you would reuse it in a different document. If you wanted to make changes, you would have to navigate back to the original location in which that referenced element was located and make your changes there. That's still the case, but instead of having to manually navigate all the way back there, right now, if you click here, you'll see you can open it, you can change it. In that case, that's actually changing the conref contents. You could select a different element if you so choose. Or you can also remove it. But the thing I really want to highlight here is that now you can edit the content. And so when you click that, instead of taking you away to a different page, it just pops up in this light box. It pops up over top of what you're working on. And now you can make changes directly in here. So let's get rid of this hyphen, and just get rid of this line. I don't want to do anything too dramatic and someone else will have to clean up after me. So we just made those couple quick changes. Now we select done right here. And just like that, you'll see that those changes have been made in this section as well. Now, this is awesome for a ton of reasons. The biggest one being it just saves a lot of time. It makes it a lot easier. So if you've been assigned to a document and you realize that there's something that's out of date or needs updating, instead of having to leave what you're doing to go and address that separately, you can take care of it quickly without it interfering too much with the work process they're already going through. Now, so I'll actually bring that back up. You'll notice right here, as I hover here, this little recycle icon. Now, this is another thing that's pretty cool. It's a recent update. Let me actually navigate to let's see, our notes warehouse. Here we go. Okay, so this is the one. So in this notes warehouse, you'll see what we actually did is we took a series of notes and we put them all in separate sections in the same topic. And these are commonly used notes that we use regularly around our documentation. So rather than having these notes kind of spread out and trying to hunt them down, they're all organized within one warehouse topic. And so here's a good example. So this note, this actually is used in 8 different instances. So if I click on this, you actually see you get a link to each and every one of these. And if you click on one, it'll open that link in a new tab. So that's just one more way that we've tried to make it easier for users to manage these topics and these elements that they're reusing across their documentation. Now I want to thank you everybody for your time, for your patience. There are just 2 more things that I wanted to go over really quickly, and I'll try to keep these short because I know that we're all looking forward to the exciting announcement that Patrick has coming at the end of the webinar. So the first thing I just wanted to talk about real quick was the new updates to the user permissions, specifically as it relates to groups. So you'll see here from the dashboard view, if we navigate down to groups, we've revamped the aesthetics of it all. And it gives administrators more control over the groups, the creation of them, and the members that are involved in the groups. Now, there aren't a lot of changes in terms of functionality right away. It is a little bit cleaner, it's a little bit easier to navigate, but this is really about looking forward, where we want to go in the future. A big part of easyDITA moving forward is going to be giving better administrator tools to those who are in charge of these technical documentation departments. And one of the key aspects of that is being able to have a real granular control over the users and the permissions and the groups. So we're looking forward to enhancements, things like having authors who are only given full authorship privileges during specific workflow cycles, reviewers for specific documentation, just a lot of exciting things. So I guess this serves as more of a teaser of things to look forward to. But I just wanted to keep you all updated about that and where we're heading in the future. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about was the Word to DITA conversion tool. Now, so you'll see over here, I've actually already got this folder open. So earlier today, I uploaded this document, and as you can see, it's a Word document, something that easyDITA couldn't actually open. But with this new Word to DITA conversion tool, you simply right-click and you convert to DITA. And then in a few minutes, this document was about 200 pages long, and took I would say just about 2 minutes for it all, for it to come out all in DITA format and to be broken up into these topics. So this document was actually one that I was trying to read in my spare time that I just downloaded off of Scribd. It's about Aristotle and a series of Western philosophers and major ideas. So you can see that the chapters, based on the size of the text heading, the chapters were actually broken into their own individual topics. And this was done automatically by the system. And so if we just open one for an example, existentialism, we'll try not to read too much. Don't want to bum anyone out. So you see here a nice, got our Nietzsche and Soren Kierkegaard. And so it maintains all the links. You have your table of contents. It maintains things like tables, the images. And so this is just something, a great opportunity for teams who want to get their foot in the door. Maybe all they have is their documentation in Word. And if they don't have too much, this can make that idea of moving their documentation over to DITA a lot more palatable. And so we're really excited about this. It's just one more tool in the arsenal of tech pub teams and trying to bring them into easyDITA and just making that process as smooth as possible. And so with that, I'm now going to hand the floor back over to Patrick, and he's going to go over the new pricing and then go over that special announcement that we've been teasing for. So with that said, Patrick, the floor is all yours.
Okay, great. Thanks, John. Let's see here. Getting back to the slide deck. Okay, so we want to go ahead and talk about a change in our pricing model. We think that this is a really good change that we're making here, and it's going to make easyDITA available to a broader audience and provide a more standardized SaaS style pricing than what we've been working with over the course of the last. I think our pricing has been steady for maybe 3 or 4 years now. Yeah, I think it's been quite a while since we've actually gone through and made the change. So the new pricing model is going to have 5 different tiers. The SaaS tiers that we're looking at right now are team, professional, and business. So it's user-based pricing. There's no base price as there is with our current subscription model. The pricing will include a number of reviewers per author, depending on your tier, and a number of unique files per author, depending on your tier. Those unique files will be grouped together. So, if you have, 5 authors in a team subscription, you have the whole group would have 5,000 unique files. So it's not individualized it's the files are not for each individual author, but it does grow as the team grows. So it kind of keeps up with teams of different sizes, and we think this works really nicely for scaling the implementation in a really easy and logical way. We've also set this up so that the different features in easyDITA, they just break out into the different categories, which is much more of like a standard SaaS style pricing that we're kind of familiar with like Salesforce and those different user-based SaaS applications. So we're excited about this change. But the thing that we're probably most excited about is what we're going to be calling easyDITA Essential. So easyDITA Essential is going to be a new version of easyDITA. It's going to be set up so it has all of the core authoring features. It's got all of the base CMS features, and it's got a PDF generator and a static site generator. The static site generator is something that we're going to do a webinar on in the very near future here, and the PDF generator is the one that you saw today. So this is going to be a subscription model for easyDITA that's really targeted towards small teams of up to 3 users, and it's everything that they need, the most essential pieces of easyDITA to be using a real enterprise-grade XML structured authoring environment for creating documentation. And the reason that this is so exciting is because we're going to be offering this product to teams under 3 at $15 a month per user. So this is the first time that there's ever been a enterprise-grade component content management system and authoring environment available to small teams at this price point. So this really means that anybody, any team of any size can use a high-quality structured authoring environment. They can go in and they can get started day one. They don't have to go through the process of starting their documentation in Word or Google Docs and then eventually transitioning into a structured authoring environment into the future. So teams from 1 to 3 authors, they can have up to 6 reviewers, so 2 reviewers per author, and then up to 1,500 unique files, which is going to be more than enough for teams of this size who are getting started documentation. Full PDF generator capabilities that were shown today, full static site generator, which is something we're going to do a webinar in the very near future. Revision history, all the standard stuff in the CCMS, and we think that this is really going to be game changing for a lot of organizations because they don't have to decide between when they're going to make this move. They can just do it day one. So really excited about easyDITA Essential. We're really hoping that this is something that can be a big change for a lot of organizations and for a lot of smaller tech published organizations. So one of the questions we had come through, which is relevant right now, is when can we expect to see this change? So we're going to be publishing the new pricing model this weekend. So next Monday, we will have the new pricing model up and online and available. People will be able to go in and sign up for an essential free trial, and then go in and plug their credit card in and just keep going with it. So it's going to be a completely self-service, standard software as a service style checkout process. So really easy to get into easyDITA, convert your Word content, set up your PDF styling, set up your static sites, and just have everything you need to really produce high quality enterprise grade content. Just had a question come through saying you're not hearing or seeing anything since the previous presenter finished. Well, I hope everybody else is hearing me. I hope it's just a problem that one person's having. It'll be pretty lonely out here if I'm talking to myself. So hopefully this is going to provide a really great solution for teams in the smaller side. Okay, so that's our announcement, and now I want to jump in and just answer some questions. So we've got some queued up here, but anybody who's got any further questions, feel free to start sending them in. Okay, so the first question we have is, will the new output tab include all previous publishes from earlier versions? Yes, it will. So you're not going to lose your publishes. Don't worry. We would never do something like that to you. So it will include all your previous publishes. And actually, on that point, I have to clarify something. Johnny did a great job, but you actually made one little mistake. Something you said during the presentation. You said that the PDF in the output was a preview, and it was listed to it was limited to 100 pages, and that's not true. That's the full PDF. We probably got that confused with the designer view that we were showing for the PDF generator. When you're doing the designing with the CSS changes that we showed, that has a limited number of pages so that it's easier to refresh and you can see your changes faster. But the PDF that was pulled out of the publishing interface, when you clicked on it, that's not a preview, that's the full PDF. You can download it right from there. So effectively what it is it's the ability to interact with the individual assets inside of a DITA Open Toolkit publish without having to download the package, which dovetails nicely into our next question, which was, does the output download from this is it the same format in the zip? And the answer is yes, it is. So if you have built automation around either programmatically extracting those zips out of easyDITA using our APIs or downloading them and putting them someplace, none of that is going to change. So your automations will not be breaking due to this change. We've just presented you the ability to get into those zips and pull out, the PDFs and such that are in there without having to download it. So it's really a convenience feature. It's not a core change in the structure or the downloads or the packages. Okay. The next question, can I set a group permission to be restricted to certain folders in the future? Yeah, so you can apply permissions based on groups if you have that feature in the version of easyDITA that you're using. So there is granular permissions that can be associated with groups and users, and you can disallow people from seeing things or allow them. So the group system upgrade and the user system upgrade that we saw, it will also impact the ability to apply read and write permissions to content in the content repository in a much more granular way. So that's going to be a really good feature for larger organizations of many teams that have different read and write access configurations. Okay, next question. Can you show me how selecting locales works in the new publishing interface? Not going to take the time to jump into a demo because it's pretty easy to describe. Basically, you just select each individual locale and they just list as like pill options. So if you're familiar with setting like taxonomy in easyDITA right now, it works the exact same way. It's the same widget. And you just list out as many as you want and they all get published. So that's really easy. I think it's a pretty significant improvement over how it works now, where you have to add scenarios and select the locales one by one. So you can add as many locales as you want to publish, and it takes like 5 seconds to add a bunch of locales and then click publish, and they all show up in the output. So for organizations like the one that the question is from, who do a lot of locale publishing, I think this is going to save you a bunch of time. I think you're going to be real happy with it. I know that we're real happy with it. Okay, let's see here. Next question is, when you add a description to an image, will it generate the alt text for the HTML output? That is a great question. So I'm going to answer this in a really kind of technical way. So I'll give a short non-technical answer and then I'll give the full technical answer. So the short non-technical answer is yes, if you want it to. And here's the longer answer that kind of justifies that. So the way that we've set up the publishing through the PDF generator, which is actually underpinned by a system called Prints XML, and that's important because a lot of the things you can do in Prints with like JavaScript and different CSS classes, all of those are valid, which provides a ton of power for that system. We're going to do webinars specifically on that point So that's just kind of an aside. But anyway, so the way that the HTML goes into the PDF generator that renders the PDF, it goes through a 3-step process. And the first step is a DITA normalization step. And that step is built to be, it's built to be identical to the way that the Open Toolkit does it. Now, in all likelihood, it's not 100% identical right now because, the Open Toolkit has a lot of edge cases covered, and we probably just haven't found those yet. But all the major stuff is going to be the same DITA normalization that the Open Toolkit provides. So this is a completely internal DITA normalization engine inside of easyDITA, which in and of itself, if you're really geeky, is really really exciting because it means that you could get that normalized data out through our APIs, and you could run that through other rendering engines outside of this. But the other thing it means is that you can take that normalized data and you can apply the transforms to it in a way where it's going to render in however you want. So the next step is HTML, and the final step is PDF. So that 3-step pipeline gives you a lot of power in terms of how you can actually work with this and modify it. So long answer, but I think it's worth noting that the pipeline for this is really robust. It follows DITA standards. It's very performant because it's built internally in easyDITA, and it doesn't rely on file system operations, which are slower, and it's extremely flexible. Okay, so the next question is this cloud-based? And if so, what about security issues? Yes, it is. This is a completely cloud-based system, and I guess we would probably want to discuss in more detail what security issues you were concerned about, but I would tell you that we prescribe to all of the modern best practices for securing our customers' content and data. So we have a security team, and we do we follow development standards and development best practices and procedures to develop secure code. We run automated security audits on every build of the software that are best in class industry standard auditing systems. We do penetration testing periodically, but more than once a year, and we're very security conscious. So we understand that our customers' data is very important, and that part of being a software as a service organization in 2019 is having a strong focus on security. So we do. I wouldn't be worried about your content in easyDITA. It's security is something we take very seriously. Okay, we got another question here. Is knowledge of CSS required? So the answer to that is kind of yes. But I mean, one of the things that John did a really good job of showing in the demo that he did of the PDF generator is that a lot of CSS can really be copy pasted, and because the PDF will update so quickly, you can really play with it. It's really easy to kind of just mess around with the different things. And the other thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be deploying a lot of examples. So we're going to publish full sets of CSS header pages so that you have examples of how to do X, Y, and Z. We're going to be doing little mini videos that talk about how to do different customizations. So there should, a lot of it is going to be really copy and paste. I don't think that you're going to think that you're going to need to actually have an intimate knowledge of CSS to be able to get the rendering where you want it to be. And then if you want to do more advanced things, the beauty with CSS is that there's somebody in your company that knows CSS. I guarantee it. Every company has some access to a resource that knows CSS well enough to style your PDFs. So it's a really common skill, and the amount of it that you need to get to where you want to go with your PDF customization is pretty low. So I think you'll find that it's pretty approachable, even if CSS is not something you would put on a resume as a skill that you have. Okay, let's see here. Actually, well, the next question is about the recording. So if you are having trouble with the sound, I apologize. Like I said in the beginning, this is the first time we've used this new webinar platform. which seems to have worked pretty well, but maybe we're still ironing out some of our process with it. So I do apologize if you had an issue with the audio. And we will be distributing a recording of the webinar, and we'll be absolutely certain to send it to everybody in this list. So if you want to catch it again, or you lost audio, the recording should contain that. So I apologize again for that, and the recording will be available very soon. Okay, let's see here. Next question. Would we be able to import existing PDF styling plugins in a new PDF system? So the short answer to that is not really. So more than likely, your existing PDF styling and plugins are for the DITA Open Toolkit, and the new PDF generator in easyDITA does not use the DITA Open Toolkit at all. So the DITA Open Toolkit is completely not a part of the toolchain. easyDITA does all the normalization and then does all the HTML rendering, and then the actual PDF rendering is done by the print XML system. So they are just completely different tool chains. That said, any CSS work that you have done for styling your PDFs, and I'm getting a little bit outside of maybe my technical capability here because I don't know if CSS is used that heavily in DITA Open Toolkit PDF styling, but any CSS would be somewhat portable. And as we were saying, doing customizations in the PDF generator is pretty simple. It's a much faster process. It's a really rapid development process. So you might find that it's even just less expensive to do some redevelopment, depending how complex your PDFs are. And speaking specifically to the question asker here, if I recall, I think your PDFs are relatively straightforward in a lot of ways. So you might want to think about, just seeing if redevelopment is an option there. If the PDF generator is something you find attractive, which I think you probably would. They generate PDFs faster. It's easier to maintain. No Apache faux requirement. You can right-click download them really easily. It's something we're going to have a lot of support for in the future. So I think it's pretty cool. Next question. No, we are not taking the DITA Open Toolkit away from you. I thought we were real clear about that, but this is a great question. Just reaffirming it. Definitely not taking the DITA Open Toolkit away from anybody. We have actually made some backend improvements to our DITA Open Toolkit support, which are kind of cool. We didn't talk about them this time around, but we are still 100% supporting the Open Toolkit. We're actually still doing engineering to improve our support for the Open Toolkit to make it a more scalable system to allow higher volume publishing. Again, not something we talked about here because it's not directly a part of this release, but it is something that we are investing into. And none of your uploaded changes, or uploaded configurations or open toolkits or anything are going to be at all affected by this. This is just a completely new piece of functionality in easyDITA that we think is going to be really beneficial to a lot of people. That said, the DITA Open Toolkit is not available in easyDITA Essential. So since nobody has purchased easyDITA Essential, that doesn't apply to anybody on this webinar because it's not even available until next Monday. So anybody who has DITA Open Toolkit customizations, you are fine. They are still going to be there. They're not going to change. All right, we're almost out of time, and I think we are out of questions. So if anybody has any other questions or any other feedback or wants to do a deeper dive in any things we talked about here today, feel free to reach out to us. We're pretty friendly people, as I think many of you know, and we love talking about our software and seeing how it can help. So we hope to talk to you all very soon. And thanks again, John, for the great presentation. I think it was a really good demonstration of what we've been working on. So thanks for everyone for attending. We look forward to talking to you all very soon and seeing you on our next webinar.